Hiya crafty folks, Amy here with Amy's Wares, and today I'm going to make a thank you card for my friend using some WOW embossing powders. Now I have this die cut that I haven't used yet from Lawn Fawn. I have a couple gorgeous embossing powders from WOW that they sent me, and I also have an embossing folder that I'm going to use, as well as some cardstock. So here are a few photos of the finished card to show you the direction that we're headed. I did use embossing powders to create the look of that die cut, and I was able to continue that with a little strip on the inside of the card. So basically this card is going to be a thank you for my friend Marian Emberson. If you aren't familiar with her, she is a crafty genius. I will link her channel in the video description box below with all the products that I use, so be sure to check her out. But basically she asked WOW to send me these goodies, and I'm so excited to play with them. Now I learned this technique from her. She uses a brayer, I'm assuming probably to just not put, more ink than you need down onto your cardstock. But basically I'm just creating a nice mixture of embossing powders to decorate the paper that I'm going to cut the die cut sentiment out of. So basically I'm going to use a couple different colors. I'm just going to lay them down in little piles, but I will be able to dump off that excess onto that scratch sheet of paper and then come in with the second color. So this way you can not waste the embossing powder and not cross-contaminate it, but you can still kind of get different embossing powders on your paper to create this fun look. Now typically in my experience I haven't done a lot with embossing powders other than for stamping, like a sentiment or maybe a background stamp, but I have learned so much and so many different ways to use embossing powder from watching her videos. So be sure to check her out and subscribe. She is an absolute riot. She's so fun to listen to, and she just does really out of the box sort of ways to stretch your crafty supplies. So I really recommend you check her out. But this embossing powder is a mix of like silvers and whites and teals, and it's just so cool. So here I'm going to do the magical step of melting. Now I have found with embossing powders that have kind of different chunks or different maybe like glitters or things in them, sometimes it's best to start heating from underneath, because that way you won't blow all the glitter off of your cardstock as you're melting it. So you can see I'm starting from the bottom, getting it kind of melted enough to kind of hang on to those extra little bits, and then I will come, just at the end from the top, just because at that point I don't think anything's going to kind of blow away on me. So again, I'm just creating a nice kind of mottled background with these different colors in order to create my die cut from it. And you can't really tell from this distance, but there are so many cool little chunks and shimmery bits and metallics all within there. So I'm just going to open up this big thank you die from Lawn Fawn. If you know me, you know I love dies like this that kind of cut it all out in one piece, so I don't have to mess with little fiddly letters or tittles or anything like that. It just cuts it out in one go. So I'm going to figure out where I want it on this pretty background, and then I'll hold it down with some mint tape from Scrapbook, and I'll run it through off screen through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. And now I have this gorgeous die cut. Now I have seen a lot of times Marian will use, I think, a piece of wax paper to kind of get the die cut out easier. I think it makes it, kind of gives it a little bit of a barrier so it doesn't stick in your die cut. But this was a little bit stuck, but nothing I wasn't able to get out with my fabulous pokey tool that my friend Judy sent me. So it just took a little bit, but I was able to get it out. So I think, again, use some wax paper over your cardstock if you don't want that to stick. Now I use this fabulous stitched rectangle die from LDRS Creative. It's a small woman-owned business in Michigan, just to kind of cut down this white panel. Again, it's the same thing, 120-pound accent opaque. I had some schmutz on it, so I got that off with my mono sand eraser, and now I'm going to run it through, after I spritz it with some water, through this angled mosaic. It's one of my favorite 3D embossing folders from All To New. Now to kick it up a notch, I'm just going to use this shimmer spray. I'm going to put it in my splat box and spray it just to put some little glitter all over that white cardstock. So it's a subtle little thing that you probably can't really see on screen, but it did add a really pretty shimmer to the design. Now I cut out 2 extra layers of this thank you just out of the plain white cardstock, just to give this some dimension. Another option, you could do little thin foam strips like the ones I use all the time, But I just decided to use a couple pieces of scrap white cardstock just to kind of build this up on the design. But I'm using Barely Art's liquid glue. I know you're shocked. I'm not using my micro dots or whatever. I'm using some liquid glue in this case, but I'm just going to glue that top embossing powder layer onto it and then put a little block on there just to kind of hold it down. Now I didn't want to waste this gorgeous embossing, so I cut a little strip that I could use for the inside of the card. So this is an easy way to not waste your scraps and also continue the design onto the inside of the card. Now I'm just scoring the edge, again 120-pound accent opaque. This panel is a little bit smaller from the die cutting, so I will attach this down, just kind of laying the pieces together to figure out what I want to do for the layout. I have a couple of thin strips from Tailored Expressions that I'm going to use as a sub-sentiment and also for the inside of the card, but I'm just using some tape runner to apply this down flat onto the card base. So the only dimension really is going to be just that little bit of popped up dimension behind the sentiment from those extra layers that I put behind the thank you. So I'm going to make sure this is pressed down well, and then I'm going to attach all these little pieces to the card. I have this blingage set. This is from Doodle's Paper Playground. Sadly, they're no longer in business, but she had all these awesome sparkle blends. So be sure to look at whatever, embellishments you have in your stash. I'm sure you probably have loads like I do, but these were a perfect complement to the pretty teals and blues. And this card is actually going to go to my friend Marion, and I know she loves teals like I do, so I wanted to use these gorgeous embossing powders and some of her colors that I know that she likes for this thank you card. So I'm just picking out a smattering of these. I have this sentiment that says, "Hello, crafty friend." I'm just going to liquid glue that right in the center and then apply some of this blingage down in odd numbers across the composition. So I tend to do, combinations of 3 and 2 just because I prefer the odd numbers. I find them more visually appealing. So I'm just getting kind of a mix of the different blue hues just because that's kind of what I have in the embossing portion with the thank you. It's kind of a mix of the blues. So this was a perfect match. Again, just using my jewel picker tool to pick these up. And then I will also liquid glue that sentiment down onto the inside of the card just to kind of finish this design. And then as a final touch, I'm going to get out my custom stamp that says Amy's Wares for the back. Now you guys always ask where I got this. This particular company is no longer available on Etsy. It was just kind of a random company that I found on Etsy years ago, but my friend Jessica Lynn does actually make custom stamps like this. So I will link her shop in the video description box below if you want to check her out. She's another small woman-owned business in the States that I would love for you to reach out to her for any of your custom stamp needs. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, please hit the thumbs up and be sure to go check out Marion's channel and subscribe to her. So thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye.